Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing good. Firstly, I'm so sorry that I have been inactive for a while. I was doing some courses which is done now. I'm back. But now I'm gonna talk about the most used framework, RE framework. I'm not gonna go in detail about it because obviously all RPA developer who have built projects in UiPath one or the other way they came across this particular topic, the RE framework. Now, this is a basic concept that one should be aware about when you say you are a UiPath RPA developer. If you haven't gone through or if you don't know how this is done, how this framework works, I highly recommend you to go through Academy Learnings. That's the best place where you can learn all the parts of this framework. Gives you more idea about this framework. Okay, now I'll just give an overview on this. RE framework states for robotic enterprise framework. It has four states: initialization, get transaction data, process transaction, and end process. The one that I'm highlighting, initialization, where you perform a initializing your environment or say your project with input data for your further processing or say opening the browser and so on and so forth. Get transaction data is where you perform fetching the data from queue on a transaction basis, first in, first out. Process transaction is where you perform uh, you build a logic in a way wherein each transaction can be performed on those specific logics that you have built. It's like a heart of your project or heart of your entire uh, automation. Now comes the end process where you clean up, perform all the consolidation and everything, basically end your process. Right, so this is the entire framework. And again, I'm stressing, if you don't know about the RE framework, I do recommend you to go through UiPath Academy RE framework learning courses. It's highly suggested and highly recommended courses are available over there. So please do go through that. Now, coming back to it. Um, so now why I'm talking about this particular use case or a framework is that, as a RPA developer, I have been building a lot of projects in using UiPath RE framework. Actually, most of my projects is in UiPath RE framework. Now, I have made some customization to the framework, which helps me, to reduce my effort on rebuilding the same thing again and again. Second thing is that, it reduces my worry about having the project go into an exceptions. Now, what are the implementation that I have made or customization that I have made is what I'm going to walk you through in this particular session. And I'm sure that this particular logic is going to help a lot of you. Believe me, it is a great addition to my RE framework as well, or a customization to my RE framework as well, as it has reduced a lot of effort from my end to redo everything again and again. Yeah. Now, without any ado, I'll get started. Okay. So my customization comes into play in the initialization part of it, where basically the head giving a head start to our automation in the sense that making sure environment is clean and whatsoever, making sure that we read all the configuration information. As you could see in the screen, we have this init all settings. What does that? It reads your config data and before it gets start executing your entire project, right? The init all setting is nothing but it reads this is the config data. It reads settings and constant. As you could see here, for each loop, it reads the settings and constant and assign the informations in a key value pair. This is what it is doing. I'm sorry, this is assets. Here is the, so this is what it is doing, key value pair. Now, there is no change here, but the change, whatever I'm doing or a customization, that change happens over here. I'll explain why. Now, what this part is, this is getting the orchestrator assets. What it does, it reads the orchestrator data and it performs a get orchestrator assets and it assigns in a key value pair. There is no problem, no issues at all. But what happens when you have a credentials type, right? I know most of us, even I used to do that. I used to write it in constant or a settings somewhere about the informations related to credentials. Or I used to create sometimes I used to create new sheets itself to maintain all the credential asset details. But again, having it created separately would eventually, or even having it in the assets, would eventually requires me to work on the codes. In the sense, I need to, you remember it. So, for instance, if you want to get the login credentials from Orchestrator, you use activity called get credentials from the, uh, like basically it gets the, I'll show you what exactly that is. Get credential. This gets the credentials from orchestrator, right? Now, the problem with this is that, first, if you have multiple times, like assume you have 5 credentials or a 10 credentials and you log into 10 different portals. Now, calling this credentials, there is a problem I wanted to talk about. What exactly is that, when you call this activity, let me call this activity. Now, whatever password that you pass or whatever the password you get from here, it should be within the scope. Now, the problem is when you have this activity, you would have to make sure that the password retains in the same scope. The moment it goes beyond, you get a warning message from the analyze workflow. So that is one, which is basically violates one of the policy, right? So that's why what UiPath recommend is that you have to maintain your passwords within the flow, within your XAML or within your scope. Now, this is one. Now, assume you have 10 credentials. You have to invoke this activity in 10 different places. Point two. And point three is that, uh, if you, I'm not sure if you have seen this kind of error, but whenever your orchestrator is down, you usually get this error message saying that unable to get the asset detail, some client request error messages, something like this you will end up with. Or you will end up with an error saying that timeout exceeded or timeout reached. So to avoid this, what you used to do or what you will do, you will utilize an activity called retry. In the sense, let me use an activity called retry scope. So basically, you would use this in this way. So you would provide your internal retrieve interval, retry number of retry times, all these information, right? Again, remember 10 times you have to do the same thing. Now, one may ask questions like, okay, so I can just create a workflow and I can utilize it. Remember the warning I told you about? So if you do that, again, it's a violation or it may not go through this checks that you do. So let me show that check if I could here. Say secure. Yep. So either secure, if you're going with the workflow, you will end up with this warning message error. It's not a warning, it's actually an error saying secure string usage. What it says is once a secure string is retrieved, it should be used to log into application by using type into activity for null. So, okay. Let me click on this. Okay. It's not okay. Anyway, I'm not able to see them, but the basic agenda is that you will end up having an error because of the secure string. Either if you have a variable or a argument, if they are reaching above beyond your the scope, then it would throw this error. Now, how to overcome all these things is that I have customized the application for init all setting. What have I done is I There is no change with the constant or a setting, but there is change in the assets extraction. So now what I have done is I have used something called this. Now, as you can see here, I have something called type and I have something called credentials. Now, let me go back to this. I have in the config file earlier, what we used to have nothing. Oh, sorry. Let me just delete this. We used to have only these columns, right? But I have added additional column called type, which contains the basically the type of the argument, sorry, the assets. So for instance, if you have a asset for credentials, then I save it as credentials. If it is text, text type, boolean, boolean. If it is integer, integer type. Now what is the value of it having this column is that I use that column to check whether the type is credential. I mean, anything apart from credential. If yes, then I would go and with the normal approach of key value pair, basically get the assets and value and store the value. Okay. But if the value is not what is it? Basically not text, not boolean, not integer, but a credential, then I pass the same, this is the asset name, I pass it as a key. Okay, bear with me here. I pass the value as key. Okay, now it's not done here yet. I also out the dt. In our original RE framework, there is no out dt is happening, but the customized one, I'm outing the assets. Whatever we have read, I am also outing that asset as a with the out argument. Now, once I'm done with that, I have another activity or another XAML file I have created called Get Credential. Now, what this Get Credential does is that it the outed asset, sorry, yeah, DT asset are getting passed as an in asset here in DT asset, and I am applying the link query to fetch only those records that has a credential. Basically, from here, what is going to happen? I'm getting this particular one row. Okay, so as you enumerable, let me zoom in a bit. As enumerable, where row of type dot to lower is equal to credentials, count is true. I mean, if it is true, then it goes here. If at all it doesn't have any credentials, then well and good, it proceeds further. But if it has any credentials, then it proceeds here. Now, what it does, again, I'll in same concept, instead of to dot count, I just used a dot copy to data table. Now, I am reassigning the DT assets. So now it only has the value of credentials. Next thing I'm doing is the secure config, which is an IO, which is in-out arguments. So I'm just initializing it with these informations. I secure string, I mean dictionary of string, and then secure string. So here with this, what I'm achieving, I'm not breaking any kind of a policy. Okay, and I'm not looping through 100 times, or not looping through, I would say, but I'm not invoking the activity 100 times in 100 different places, and I'm not adding that activity, basically get credential inside try catch in 100 times. Whatever happens, it happens in the first work in one workflow, which is get credential, and it gets invoked in the initialization itself. That way, this argument, which holds the informations of string and secure string, will be passed throughout my project, and it gets utilized in throughout my project. So that if at all it has to fail due to some network issue, due to some credential timeout issue, it would fail in the init itself, and it would not fail in the say, assume a scenario wherein you have to send in process transaction, you have to send emails um, on every transaction. Now, if you're using credentials to logging into your email box, then what's going to happen is that you would have to perform a get credentials on every transaction, right? For every transaction. And once you do that, once you get those informations, and you would start sending the email. If at all you fail to send the, or if at all you fail to get the credentials, you would have an error in that particular. I mean, you are not able to send the email, and your transaction will fail, right? So basically, what's going to end up having is that partial execution will happen for your project. So you can avoid that altogether here. Instead of having a partial execution, you would have either success, or if it has to fail, it would fail in the init itself. And say there is an having this approach is also very suitable for you, is because, see, some there may be a scenario wherein your server may go down, or the orchestrator may go down after some time, but your process already started. Initialization is already completed. That means already assets are being extracted and credentials are already got extracted. So even if it goes down, your project is continued to gets gets successfully executed without having to throw any error. So these are all benefits that you get to having this customization made to your RE framework. Okay. Now going back to the flow that I'm going to explain, I'll zoom in a bit. That way, okay, you get a clarity, but I can only go for this much. Anyway, next what I'm doing is that I'm looping through DT assets. Remember, the DT assets only now contains the asset information. In our case, only one row it has. Now I'm doing the retry. Inside retry, get credential. Now remember, we have passed this information, right? The asset name, basically this one. This we have passed, right? So the same thing we use here to get the credential of the of the particular asset. So here we pass, since this is for each loop, current in config of name is nothing but, sorry, in config of name is nothing but asset. This is what we get, right? So that's what we are getting it right now. And then once we have passed the information, we get the secure password. Now here, secured password, what I'm doing is that, I'm getting the password in secure config, same thing, name I'm passing. This is same name, RP asset, but at the end, what I'm appending is that password. So this way, I can differentiate between username and password. Now I have a password. And if I go back, uh, let me zoom in to show you what I have done here. So in secure config of, again, remember this is a string dictionary of string secure config. So what I'm passing is now value for password. Sorry, value is getting passed, but the password is stored in here in secure config with the name as asset name and then password. This is how the password gets stored. Now this is my key name, and then value for it is the secure password. Okay, so that is one, and the username is that user ID gets passed. Again, same thing, username would be same, copy, and I'm pasting over here just to show you. Here it would paste it in this way, or the key value would be the asset name appended with the user ID as a keyword. And then here I will have a value as user name. And then for this one, the value I have is the set passwords, which got it from the orchestrator. Now I can use these keywords, or the key that you see, config keys that you see, through entire projects, through entire the project that I'm gonna do. Wherever I need to utilize the credentials, I can just call this. That way I get the username, I can call this, I get the password. So that's how I have customized exception, or sorry, getting the credentials from the orchestrator without invoking the activity multiple times. Now that's it for today. This is the one of the customization. Now I'll come to in next session, I'll talk about other couple of most customization I have done, which I'll explain you in the later stage of the session. I hope this was helpful, and if you like this content, please do subscribe, share, and do share your thought process on the comment section. And that's it for today. I hope to meet you all soon with the additional customization to RE framework.